Hello, everyone. All right, we're just going to get started. Welcome, everybody. My name is Sonia Lukac. I use the pronouns she, her, and I'm the visual and media arts curator at Arts Commons. And on behalf of my whole team, I want to welcome you to tonight's RBC Emerging Visual Artist Reception. And before we get to meet the artists and see the galleries at Arts Commons, I want to begin by acknowledging that we at Arts Commons live, work, and play on Treaty 7 territory, the original home of the Blackfoot Confederacy, comprised of the Siksika, Piikani, and Kainai First Nations, the Stoney Nakoda, comprised of the Chiniki, Wesley, and Bearspaw First Nations, and the Tsuut'ina First Nation. We also recognize this place as the traditional home of the Métis Nation of Alberta Region 3. As Arts Commons is located in this traditional territory, we join in the spirit of gathering and with respect for these First Nations. I hope you also enjoyed the treaty acknowledgement rhyme by Kelly Ray Morning, Bo Piikani. So I'm so grateful that we can share this evening and celebrate together. And it is powerful to understand that together we're taking part in a long history and tradition of gathering and sharing knowledge on Indigenous land. And so I want to welcome everybody and all the incredible artists who have joined us from the RBC Emerging Visual Artist Program. I know a few folks are also joining us from different places and time zones, and I want to thank each of you for your presence. We also have Selena Vides and Jen Roberts here from the Arts Commons team, who are in the back end technically making all of this happen. And they are available to chat if anyone needs any technical assistance. So thank you, Selena, and thank you, Jen. A few housekeeping notes before we begin. We are recording and we are also streaming live to YouTube. So hello, YouTube audience. We do have closed captions available or a live transcript via Zoom. And we do encourage you to view this event in speaker mode on Zoom rather than gallery. We will be speaking with each of the artists and seeing their work via our virtual galleries. So you can also access these galleries, and I'll post this in the chat online here. So let me get to my chat. Let me include everybody. And I'll post the link to all the virtual galleries in case you want to explore that on your own this evening. So please save your questions for the end of the event, as we will have optional breakout rooms for those of you joining us in Zoom. This is where you can meet the artists and talk with them directly about their work. And please note that the breakout rooms will not be recorded. Please do use the chat. Please say hello, share your support and comments. This is a visual arts event, so please do use those emojis. We want to see them. And I also want to acknowledge before we begin that most of the artwork that you will see here from the 16 visual artists tonight has been installed in Arts Commons for over a year now. This is not only a record-breaking exhibition length, but for me, highlights the need to acknowledge this time of even greater isolation for artists, but also the need to deeply celebrate their work tonight. And even though the building has been closed, over the past year, I've had the honor to work with these amazing creatives who I'm so inspired by. And even though many of the artists have never met in person, we have a highly engaged community-focused group of artists and a lot to celebrate tonight. So how does that sound? Shall we begin with our celebrations? Excellent. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to transport you into the Plus 15 galleries. So give me a second to just share my screen here. So you should see along with me, somebody nod, the Plus 15 galleries. Excellent, great. Use those emojis. And here we are, we're back at Arts Commons. We're up in the Plus 15 galleries. And I want to welcome Mariam Fabian. I have the honor to welcome this extraordinary artist and community builder. So I want to welcome you, Mariam. Please introduce yourself, and can you please tell us a little bit more about this fabulous exhibition that's in the Plus 15 galleries called The Many Paths That Have Led Us Here, Stories of Resilience in the Arts.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to read from a prepared statement because I wanted to make sure that I covered everything that I wanted to say. So I apologize for my somewhat monotone reading abilities, but here we go. I am Mariam Fabian, and I am the author and a participant in the Many Paths exhibition. This exhibition initiative came about as a result of a conversation between Sanya Lukacs, Ollie Siska, and myself. We wanted to address the many diverse paths taken by artists to get to this point of exhibition, what motivates them, how has their trajectory affected their creative output, how has their work evolved, and what obstacles did they have to overcome to get where they are. Sanya requested that I formulate the title for the exhibition initiative and to write the exhibition statement. This is the statement I wrote. An artist's path is not always clear nor predetermined. No two paths are alike, nor should they be compared. An artist's creative journey is unique and as important as the artwork produced, with the journey almost always forming the creative process. Core to this initiative is that every artist has a story, and from a foundation of sharing these stories, we can foster a community of support, inclusiveness, engagement, and shared opportunities. For me, I've been a practicing artist since the 1980s, finding early success exhibiting my work across Canada and into Europe, including group exhibitions, London Life, the Young Contemporaries, a touring exhibition from 1987 to 88, Nickel Arts Museum's Elemental Instincts, a Matter of Course, 1988, and Homecoming, Nickel Arts Museum, 1997, plus with solo exhibitions at the Southern Alberta Art Gallery in Lethbridge, YYZ in Toronto, Gallery Kurna in Slovenia, Biznitska Galleria in Italy, Oboro in Montreal, and Toronto's Photographers Workshop. I received my BFA from the University of Calgary and my MFA from the Nova Scotia College of Art and Design. My earlier work took the form of multimedia installations and focused on issues of identity, language, lineage, and heritage. In the late 1990s, I took a hiatus from publicly exhibiting my work to devote my time to raising a family and in search of greater freedom in my creative process. During this time, I focused on drawing and developing a more personal, expressive language. The Many Paths is one of my first exhibitions in over 20 years. It was a bit of a daunting prospect to begin with, but I must say it quickly became a very positive experience, both personally and professionally. For this exhibition, I wanted to show some of my earlier works and how they connect and continue to influence the work I create today. I'm always looking for a common thread that connects all my work. It is extremely important to me that I recognize my own personal approach to artwork creation and to stay true to myself. My first contribution to the Many Paths exhibition, for that I was given 2 windows in the Arts Commons Plus 15 gallery. For the first window, I chose to display a series of works that I call Cameo and Cameo Revisited, created over 30 years ago. These were photo-based works that centered around a found damaged image of a woman whose identity is unknown to me. Her image, her beauty, and the damage done to her image captured my attention. This unknown woman thus made a cameo appearance in my artwork as I created several works in response to her image. For the second window, which was simultaneously exhibited across from the Cameo series, I chose to create a cameo image of myself. I called this installation On the Edge of Beauty and Disruption. The medium used was pen on many layers of paper. This installation was intended to show where I was in my creative process. It not only paid homage to the Cameo series, but also hinting at the stresses I felt getting to the point of exhibiting my artwork once again. Contrary to that, what I also saw was the beauty and individuality of my journey to that point. I wanted to lay it all bare and raw for the viewer to experience. You can see the artwork from the first 2 windows via my Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook posts. The first 2 window installations were exhibited alongside Ollie Siska and Haley Heavy Shield, who also had 2 windows to exhibit older and newer works, and were also given the same opportunity to share this story. For the 3rd window, shown after the first 2 installations were dismantled and 4 more artist groups were asked to join the exhibition initiative, I installed 2 works that I called Deeply. These works can be seen via Arts Commons virtual tour online, and I guess it's on screen right now. Deeply is the 3rd part of a 3-part presentation of my artwork for this initiative. It too is a self-portrait and not only shows my creative process of scoring, and letting the pen ink penetrate and bleed through the surface and layers of the paper I carved into, but also are an expression of the depth of feeling I put into the artwork I create. The cameo image for this installation is the reverse side of the primary drawing from the On the Edge installation, laying bare once again my artwork's intent of sharing my personal vulnerability and strength. I will end my presentation here. I hope to see many of you in the breakout room at the end of the celebration, where I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have and to share more about my work and journey. Thank you everybody for attending, and I'll now pass it back to Sania to introduce the presenting artists. Thank you, everybody.
Oh, not so fast. I want to talk a little bit more about your work.
Okay. This I wasn't expecting. What do you want to know?
I want to know so much. I want to talk a little more about the materials that you used to create this work. So do you want to tell us what exactly we're looking at here?
What you're looking at, and my main medium for this series of works is pen on paper, and I'm talking about your basic Bic pen. What I was really enjoying as I developed my current practice was creating my own expressive language, but I also wanted to work fearlessly in that every mark that I put down, I can't really take back. I just really had to believe in it. And some marks you can go over and obscure and, reshape, but basically they still leave a residual effect. And so this one is actually carved through several layers. Both of these are carved through several layers of paper, and they're torn and they're stained. And I really wanted to let the spontaneity of the process come through, let things happen, and be very expressive in this work. I used the pen when I first started to do these works because it's a writing tool, and my language is a visual language, and I wanted to make a connection between those two things, the visual. So I chose the pen. I also, because at the time when I first started doing these drawings, I was, raising my family, and I needed something that I could pick up, put down really easily as I worked, so that I didn't feel torn between 2 tasks. I could juggle it more easily. I could just put the pen down and wipe my hands, and that was it. So that's sort of why I started using the pen on paper. And I really just I also come from a sculptural background, so gouging into the paper really spoke to that background as well.
Mm-hmm. You can see that there's quite a lot of energy in this work from that action. How many layers are about in this paper pad? You can't quite tell in the scan.
No, because it's also the reverse side.
Mm-hmm.
This is the reverse side of the main drawing. So the first drawing is done about through 10 sheets of paper. And so if you were to sort of spread it out as a book, you would be able to see the layers. But what I really, and it was not expected, I fell in love with the back side of the image as much as the front side of it. So I thought it was a nice transition to the 3rd window to show this more intimate version closer up, and then the companion piece, which I just thought also spoke to the process and the meaning of deeply.
Absolutely. Got one more question for you. What's your favorite part about being an artist?
Lately, it's doing. And I have to say, when I started this new process, I got the joy back of creating again. And I really like the spontaneity of the work. And it's not always totally planned out. I have an idea, but I also let it take me on a journey. I also, love this part of becoming part of community of artists who talk to each other and share experiences and their work together. I find that very refreshing and stimulating and encouraging, very encouraging to be with exhibit with these artists who come from such diverse backgrounds and have very different reasons for creating.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for all the work that you've put into giving yourself and all the other artists a platform through this installation. I'm going to move to the next gallery. Now, I have been practicing. No guarantees I won't give you virtual vertigo or anything like that, but I did spend a lot of time today going from one little bubble to the next. Our next artist, I don't know if Ali is here, but I do want to show off the installation that Ali Siska's put together called Rock Faces. And I'm just scanning my participants. In lieu of Ali's presence, I have a small statement from her that I can present as you enjoy the work. Ali says that many years ago, I started to see faces in rocks. They appeared out of nowhere, yet I knew that they had always been there. I began to photograph them wherever I went. Their energy was unlike any other as they began to come to life. They started to tell me stories about human nature and the land, and I began to write them down. The stories were short and simple with complicated punchlines. Each rock face had its own identity and wisdom, and I simply documented their words. I know that Ali is also working towards a book with this project in mind. And I just thought this was just a lovely, lovely installation, and especially for Earth Day today, just to see some of this beautiful work that she's gathered through her photography practice. Just going to give you a little bit of a close up to some of these. And Ollie's done a wonderful job of utilizing the floor of the gallery as well to have some of the loose prints there. Okay. The next artist is Haley Heavyshield. Now, Haley let me know that she may not be able to attend, so I'm just going to triple check. Haley, if you're there, say hello. Otherwise, we will just move forward and show off this wonderful work. So as part of her artist statement, Haley is inspired by her love of comic books and pop culture's pinup genre. Haley Heavyshield experiments with Blackfoot feminism in relation to women's roles as providers, protectors, and as leaders. So I'm just going to take you through these prints. Absolutely gorgeous. Wonderful. We're going to walk straight down over, and we're going to see the work of Sable Sweetgrass. Let me get nice and close in there. And Sable's prepared a little statement as well with the quote of, "I've always loved the painted images of Mary and Jesus with gold halos. My son is holy, and my role as an adopted transgendered mother is both traditional and sacred." Let you enjoy that one. Okay. So we're going to move down to the work of Penny Gunderson. This is an extraordinary exhibition that not only features Penny's work, but the work of many other artists. Penny has done this in collaboration with the Women's Center and 1,000 Voices. Welcome, Penny. How are
Hello.
you?
I'm well, thank you.
Great. Penny, why don't you tell us a little more about your work here?
Well, it's not just my work. It was my first collaborative effort with two groups of women, and I would just like to share their names.
Yes.
The women from 1,000 Voices: Shalina Handa, Veena Begai, Adarsh Parmar, Jasjeet Kaur, Devinder Bedi, Nicole Ouellette, Pritram Kaur, Kalavati Purohit, Ramaben Patel, Shirley D'Souza, Umera Layakwat. And from the Women's Center, Colleen Peters, Claudia Shagoya, Martha, Kayla, Floral, Jasmine Kutenho, and several other anonymous women. And my daughter, Mariah David, who took photographs for me in person when I wasn't able to be there because of my sensitivity for COVID. And I also wanted to acknowledge Canada Council of the Arts for funding, and also Calgary Neighborhood Grants and the Women's Center of Calgary for their help and funding. I wanted to talk tonight about the many past theme of resiliency. I've been very fortunate to be able to take part in the RBC Emerging Visual Artist Program over the last couple of years. And as a woman in her 60s, coming into her own in art, it reminds me of the biblical verse that there is a time and a season for all things. And as a divorced mother raising two children alone with a chronic illness and then developing several others, I struggled to put food on the table and provide direction for my children, and art went by the wayside for many years. And it's joyful to have this back in my life. Also, on the theme of resiliency, I wanted to talk about the women who took part in this. There were women from the Women's Center, and they come from many paths, many reasons that they are accessing the Women's Center. And as you can see by the beautiful totes and the beautiful work, everything is so individual. Also, the women from 1,000 Voices, many of them newcomers or first generation people here in Canada. And what a joy it was to share Zoom sessions with them, and the many languages and the translations going back and forth so everyone could take part was really exhilarating. I wanted to talk about the history of sewing circles, especially in Alberta. When Alberta was first settled, there was great distances between ranchers and farmers, and their wives were often very, very isolated. And sewing circles or quilting circles were one of the few times that they could get together with other women from far-flung communities and stitch and visit and share community. Actually, community was stitched into every stitch because that's how the women supported each other through births and deaths and illnesses. And I wanted to bring that to today when there's so much urban isolation. We live in a very large city, but many of us are very limited in our personal contacts that have any depth. And I found that this fed a need for me, and I hope it did for the women who took part. Another part of resiliency is this took part during this pandemic year and a half here. You know, it took part when women were especially isolated. And I know that I look forward to the Zoom sessions, and I look forward to the Zoom combined with online with me and the other women in place at the Women's Center, but socially distanced, with my daughter being my physical person there while I was over the computer. And it didn't matter how it was approached, there was still huge community. There's a power in women reaching out and helping each other. There's a power in creating together. And I just wanted to especially let the women know how much that meant to me in this past year, where I had a very difficult year. And I really looked forward to those opportunities to visit with them and to see their creativity and see how excited they were to be doing these things. And as you can see, the work is just overwhelming and beautiful. And this is only half of the work, you know? And so I'm looking here to see if I've missed anything I was supposed to mention. Oh, my part of it. My part of it was coordinating the groups meeting and working together, but also working on black and white photographs of hands printed on silk, dipped in wax, and then stitched on the bottom to look like tea towels. And I wanted to bring that that rural history into this urban time, and to acknowledge that women working with their hands is important. And sometimes we don't acknowledge that as art, and it is.
Wow, thank you, Penny. Thank you for just the very beautifully spoken words, and the way that you connect all of these themes in your work is just absolutely beautiful. And welcome to all of the women who are here with us tonight. Congratulations. We're so honored to have your work here with us. And thank you so much. So what I think is so absolutely incredible is the way that you've adapted your program with the mending circles from in-person to online. And maybe you could speak a little bit to that, the transition of doing them in person and then the transition into doing them over Zoom. What was that like?
Well, the in-person first session at the Women's Center was just before we were isolated and not able to join together. And it was just a really fun evening. And of course, we were able to be closer together and move our handwork from one person to the other just to show things. And there was women with children, and there were older women, and everyone shared their common history of some kind of handwork being done by people they loved. Mm. And then we had the pandemic happen, and I was just not at all sure how everything was going to work. And so the Women's Center really had a need for women to feel connected, and they weren't able to go there. And so I developed a handwork thing that people could do at home with stuff that they had on hand. So it was old t-shirts, whatever you could stuff them with. And we made, you can see on the chairs, there's a couple of pillows there that are made from old t-shirts. And that was one of the first things that we did. And it was exciting that the women really felt that met a need for them. And then I was trying to find a way that I could connect with the women from 1,000 Voices. And we met for 8 weeks, weekly. And some of the things you might see there are quilts and things that handwork that were finished. Some of those were partially finished projects that I had found in thrift stores. And these women completed them so beautifully and so originally. And we also did the tote bags, and everybody got a material package with, a lot of it was donated quilters materials and stuff. And as you can see on the back where they are hung, that they are just absolutely gorgeous and very different. And the women added some of their own touches, like tassels and pieces from saris and beadwork, and it was just gorgeous. And so many more than are exhibited here.
Mhm.
And I also did another women's center mending circle where my daughter went in my place, and the women wore masks and were socially distanced and had their kits. And I was there by Zoom, and my daughter carried the laptop around and shared me with everyone, and I shared with them. And she took the photos of their hands, and then I manipulated them in photo programs to turn them black and white and crop them and all those things. As for my part in that, I feel like I got so much more out of it than I gave.
That is so beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And you're getting some lovely comments in the chat as well. Thank you, everybody, for sharing your thoughts. Penny, what's your favorite part about being an artist?
I think my favorite part is the creative, being in the zone. When you're making something and time stands still and you are so deeply involved in something, the making and creating of something, that it feeds your soul.
Absolutely delicious. Well, thank you, Penny. Thank you for sharing. And thank you to all of the women who are part of this. Next, I would love to invite our very dear Toyin Oladeli. Hi, Toyin, how are you?
I am fantastic. Thank you, Saya. How are you? How is everybody today?
Doing good. I'm totally giving everybody a roller coaster of a ride. But Toyin, I want to welcome you. And
Thank you.
I mean, you are a wonderful artist, Toyin. You are the founder of the Immigrant Council for Arts Innovation, but you are also a guest curator within its exhibition. So I'm hoping you can introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your curatorial approach in selecting the work from Moa and Giselle for this exhibition.
Sure, I can. Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to be here today. Arts Commons holds a lot of wonderful memory in my life, and in my career. So I'm like super privileged to be here and to talk about the wonderful work that Mohar and Giselle, what they've done tonight and what they've been able to put together. Looking back to when, Saya reached out to me and told me about what the vision she had for this exhibition, I looked at myself as a curator and I felt like I needed to work with women with a distinct story. Every woman has a distinct story, but I looked at the space. I saw the wonderful work that was there. I sat then and I'm like, whew, this is something really fantastic. And we needed artists who could bring in themselves, the total self, into that space. Now, I, like Saya said, founded the Immigrant Council for Art Innovation, and we work with immigrant artists, newcomer artists, and we try to, provide space for them, connect them to the arts community, provide resources. And this was a fantastic opportunity. I'm like, definitely, we're not letting this go. I reached out to a few people. I discussed with them about the vision that I had for the space and what I thought would be would fit into what was already being done. And I saw Giselle's work. I've seen it for some time, but I felt she needed a kind of space to express herself. Many parts, I thought about it. What could that mean to an immigrant artist, to an immigrant woman who was not born here, someone who has her own distinct story from how she got here, family, life, and putting everything together. And I think Giselle did something very fantastic. I remember the day we installed, she took us on that journey of how this was done and what it represented. And I'd asked her a lot as a curator myself. I'd educated myself a lot about her practice and her uniqueness and everything she brought as with herself. I just couldn't hold that back. And I said, Saya, I think you need to see this. This is something really fantastic. And totally, Saya was so supportive. And she just gave us the freedom to express ourselves, to put things as we wanted. And I remember looking at the pictures we took on that day, and I'm like, wow, this actually really happened. Thank you to everyone that made it happen. And for Mohar, I think the first time I came in contact with Mohar, the first thing that came to my mind was she is one bold artist, a woman with a lot of courage, with a lot of strength. And you can see that from the colors. She didn't hold back. There was nothing. And I'm saying this specifically, I want you to understand that when you're a newcomer to a space or you're an immigrant, you have a lot of doubts. You have a lot of questions in your mind. You're asking yourself if this is going to be accepted, if this is going to look like every other person. She was so bold. She said, yeah, this is it. I looked at them. I sat down. I kept looking at the pictures. I kept looking at the direction I wanted to take the show as a curator. I kept, asking myself a lot of questions. I'm like, whoa, this is so captivated. And I hoped that we were able to pass the same energy to everyone that was able to see this show. That was kind of like my goal. I really hope that happened. Once again, thank you so much, Saya, and to the team at Arts Commons. It's always a pleasure. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Toya. Thank you so much. Thank you for lending your spirit into this. And you're not off the hook yet. I wanted to know from you, what's your favorite part about being an artist?
I'm sure you know that answer, but I'm going to say it's just the vulnerability it brings with it. Like whether I'm performing or I'm curating or I'm just talking about art, it's the only place or when I'm just chatting with Josh, or we're just having those conversations. It's the only place where I just let go of everything. I just be myself. It's very safe for me. Being an artist I don't really think about what holds me back or what I need, how I need to be perfect. No. Even if I want to be perfect, it's being perfect with the art, not being perfect with my being human. I get vulnerable. I do things just the way I want to. And I think it's my favorite part.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Next, I want to invite Moer to the stage. Welcome, Moer. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you all?
Good. Welcome. Do you want to tell us a little more about the work that you have installed here in the Plus 15 galleries?
Yeah, first I like to say big thank you to Toilin, Immigrant Council of Art Innovation, and Art Commons Sanja for giving me this opportunity, because as a newcomer, when I came to Calgary, I was so unsure where to show my work, who is the artist working in Calgary. But one day I went to Calgary Public Library, and I found a pamphlet of Immigrant Council of Art Innovation, and I contacted Toyin, and she gave me so much of strength to go ahead and do this exhibition. And I am so glad I am in the same platform with Penny and Mariam. They give me immense opportunity to showcase my work in there. And I'm feeling so happy, like my little journey is started from Art Commons and it will go on.
Everybody in the room is smiling ear to ear right now. Thank you for your contagious spirit. Thank you so much for being a part of this. And oh my gosh, you are just going to do so many amazing things. I'm so happy you're part of our community. But let's take a look at some of this fabulous work. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your process, some of the materials that you use to create it?
So I am basically textile designer. I was textile. I am a weaver actually. I was working in jacquard loom back home in India, and I after coming to before coming to here Canada, I was in Melbourne, and there I was doing a bridal brooch designing, and then I moved back to Calgary with my husband because of his work. And I couldn't find any opportunity regarding textile. And then I'm like an artist from like 4 years old. Like every day I do some kind of creative stuff. I love doing that. Like it's give me immense happiness when I create something. So I started like I buy canvas and started creating different picture, and that rose was the first one I created in the Calgary, and that canoe one. So I went to Peto Lake and I saw this canoe over there. I took a picture, and that inspired me a lot because I didn't saw that kind of boat in India. That is for me, it's very nice shape. So that too was the first one. And as a textile background, I always try to create a different texture in my medium. So if you can see on the after the canoe one, that with this one, I attached like a necklace, beads, scotch brite, sponge, tissue, and everything there to make the visual texture. And then I put like alcohol ink and acrylic to make that visual effect of fall. And the next picture after that, that's the background is like that's also inspired by fall. And the background is on that birch tree. I created the birch tree with like acrylic painting, but the whole background created with alcohol ink. It's just the scenery of fall, and the river is flowing down, and the highlighting picture is my favorite one now. It's like all inspired by Canada and beauty and the nature. Like whenever I go somewhere, I take a picture. I try to represent that in my canvas.
Beautiful.
And sometimes I create like different texture with like back of my paintbrush, or sometimes I do some kind of scratching, like there is some art on the corner. So I create different texture with the wet paint to make that art then pot. And I create every day something to, it's for my own happiness. Even like I teach in my community, like small kids art, and they all are immigrant children, and that gives me immense happiness. And currently I'm working with a project from City of Calgary, and there I'm working with 16 people, and recently Mariam also joined us. So my project is like creating own traditional art and we are showing in Memorial Park Library, and everyone is representing their own culture. I am directing them how to do, and most of them didn't touch the brush yet. This is the first time. So when that will be in alive, I'll give that link to Sanja to share with everyone. And this is my short story. Thank you so much.
Beautiful. I can't wait to see this. Please do share that link with us. And I have all the confidence under your direction that this is going to be an incredible exhibition of new work from emerging artists as well. And Moer, my final question for you is, what's your favorite part about being an artist?
Being a creative life, like whenever like feel I'm giving suggestion to everyone. Most of them are artists, but just for my suggestion in this pandemic, if you feel sad, if you feel depressed, if you have not work, do a art every day. It will give you some kind of happiness to overcome this stressful situation what we are going through now.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us and also your artwork.
Thank you so much.
Next, I will invite Giselle to talk more about her work. Welcome, welcome. Are you able to introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about your work? And you are currently muted.
Better?
Much better. Welcome. How are you?
So anyway, I came many years ago to Canada, and I studied ceramics first at George Brown College, and I realized that I'm a good sculptor. I never really learned it, but it just I already did some quite good sculptures in Hungary, but I didn't know I can sculpt, and I didn't know where it came from. I just had it. I never be a good potter, but I was a good sculptor, much better than painter. And then, so then I continued to study at Nova Scotia College of Art. And I still did these old little pots and old design. And I imagined things like coming from the ocean, like a ship sink, and it just some divers find it in the ocean. And then, so I was told by my professor that do something modern, like do something with something very contemporary. But I just don't have it in me. I still don't have it in me. And so I was a little bit, actually quite a bit concerned about that, because I just draw by these old things, and I didn't know why. So I always did this. And then one time I met somebody who had some artwork displayed in somewhere. And then I talked to him because I meet an artist and I can talk to, and he said, do you believe in reincarnation? I said, no. But he said, he said, okay. But I tell you anyway. So he said that he had somebody read his poem or something. And this person who not able to tell his past or, whatever, he told him, oh, you are an artist. Oh, I can see I can see that you from Michelangelo or something like that. You descend in descendant from Michelangelo. And then it began to hit me that, sure, and who Michelangelo, who is descended from? Who was his ancestors? And then I began to think, like, why? So that's my whole drive, that why artists even exist? What was our goal in evolution? How, no anymore says art skill, as far as I know. And then it's not necessary for survival. So why do we have it? And then also that it was just passed down. Since we are not better than 2,000 or 30,000 years ago, 25,000 years ago, we're not better. We just do different things. But so who was our ancestor? Why are we still doing what we do, because in my family, and I'm sure most of people's family, artist is not just one person in the family. Usually somebody artist, maybe the grand, maybe the great grand, maybe the somebody, but in family, artist just passed on. And not necessarily from parents, could be from grandparents or great grandparents. So that was my whole idea, to begin to think, okay, and why I am drawn to buildings, stone. I love old stone, and why I am drawn to it. So I began to just think about where is maybe my ancestors from, and maybe somewhere from Turkey. And then one of the pieces, those caves where still exist and still people living, and maybe my ancestor lives there and worked on it to make the caves. And then if they have the tools and the know-how how to work with stone, then they began to migrate to Europe, and then wherever, and they become a Masons, the Freemasons, which is moving A to B to other places, wherever they find work, wherever somebody decide to build whatever. I don't say always a Gothic, because it was not a Gothic, it could be a medieval or something, but a building. But so that's how they work. They just migrated. And I thought must be because I'm so drawn to it. I'm just so interested. And I'm thinking maybe it was my ancestor who had this strong feeling, and it just passed on towards the future. And I'm just looking back to that, what they did. Yeah, I'm still love stones. I do now ceramic because easy to do it in my studio space, but I never learned to carve stone, but I have life-size plaster sculptures which I carved, and I like cement. Now I would like to work with cement more, but my studio space doesn't like dust. Like I can't do too much dust. But so until then, I just enjoy the ceramic pieces, because they all a journey. So they are all through time, and it's all kind of what was in Europe, and then where could be my ancestors have done or lived. And so that's my sculpture. And I always thought about the walls, the old walls. When you go into this old ancient building and you still find these places which are beautiful one time, but they began to crack and fade, and it was repaired many times. And because usually when they restore it, like even a long time ago, they not just repainted it or scrape it off and try to fix it. So you have this thick build-up paint, and some show it more than others, but that was my idea, thinking like, okay, some people did the stone work, but maybe women did the interior. We don't know. I mean, generally nobody say that, but probably women had the skill as now, the art skill as in the past. So I thinking maybe women did that. And so that was just one. Not all my work is here, because some is heavier than others, and some more show the decaying time, but still the beauty in that. That's it.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I love so much of what you have to say. I also really appreciate that you look to your ancestors into the past to inform your contemporary practice.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that's so exciting. So thank you for taking us through your work, your materials, your inspiration. I also want to know from you, what's your favorite thing about being an artist?
Ooh. When I create something what I'm happy with, but generally is more a struggle for me. Instead of I don't relax when I create something. I'm fighting because it's something in my mind and I just don't see it coming together.
I think a lot of us can relate to that. Is there anything else you want to share about this work?
I can think. Oh yeah, actually, can I just say something?
Yeah.
On the foreground, you see the fertility statues, and then you see some wood cup, and then you see some leather little things which people kept used for so those are actually, beside that fertility statue, those little ceramic pieces like over 3,000 years old. Near my city was a very like over 2,000 years old settlement, which was, who knows how old it was originally, but they find some of the broken, actually not just broken, they were living there for a long time. And then so those pieces, little broken pieces, are from that period.
Absolutely stunning. Thank you. Thank you for sharing all of that.
Thank you.
Okay, let me backtrack just a little bit. Not making anyone sick yet, am I? Okay, so last but certainly not least, we have the work of Anthony R. I'm just going to navigate over to that. And Anthony, unfortunately, isn't able to join us this evening. However, Anthony did recently speak about his work through our Instagram Live. So you can see that online on Instagram through the Artists of YYC account. But I do want to take a piece from Anthony's artist statement and quote him in when he says, "As a young Black man, I show Black empowerment in minority groups. I also speak on the subject of radical violence in the Black community and try to show how intolerable it is. When people see my art, I try to give a glimpse of what it's like to be a young Black man. I want them to feel as if they are part of our community and that they have experienced our hardships." So just a wonderful artist who came to us from high school. This is all work that Anthony created only at the age of 17. So just really excited to see where their work goes next. Okay, so these are the artists from our Plus 15 galleries. And next we have a very special performance. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I am going to welcome our very special guest this evening, Wakefield Brewster. Welcome, welcome, Wakefield. We're going to add you to the screen here.
Hello, can you hear me? Is everything good?
Oh, I can hear you. I can see you. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. How are you doing this evening?
Oh, so good. So good to have you here. Wakefield is a poet and a spoken word artist, also known as the lyrical pitbull. So just welcome to the stage. Thank you for being here and happy Poetry Month.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you so very much. How is everyone doing? I know how everyone's doing. Everyone is doing very well. This is an uplifting and very insightful kind of look into the artists and the work that goes into it and the stories that come behind it. This is a beautiful thing. The theme is resilience. And I would like to contribute to the theme. I'd like to say thank you for asking me to contribute to this virtual showing. The funny thing is, I'm not a visual artist in any way, shape, or form. I cannot draw a stick man with a ruler. I am a poet and spoken word artist solely. I did grow up with a musical background, classical piano since I was 6, and then percussion when I turned 12, and then took it to university. But I believe these artists all know that other arts influence you, and you never know when one may take over the other. And that's what happened to me. I started with music, but put all of my musicality here, and now I'm letting it flow with the words that I have here. One of the best things that I love about being an artist, about being a poet, is I get to wrestle with the words. In a conversation in real time, it's easy to have misunderstandings. It's easy to make mistakes. It's easy to say, I wish I took that back, or I wish I said something. I would like to say that the best thing about being a poet is I get to go home and wrestle with the words until they become perfect, at the time, perfect enough that I can share with the world. So I'm going to share a few of those words with this art world here. And I'm going to stick with the main theme of resilience. And I have 3 poems here. One shows the resilience of women in culture. Another shows the resilience of cultures proper. And the third is a resilience of us all, because we are in the midst of a global pandemic, just in case you didn't know. So I would like to say, I'm not as pretty as all the artwork. So for everyone who is actually participating, please feel free to close your eyes, because I find that the eyes do lie, and you can hear so much more when you embrace the spirit of radio. So please feel free to close your eyes and let me take you on this journey, and I hope that you all can feel the flow. The first poem is very, very a feminist poem. It embraces feminism, lyricism, astrophysics, and my mom. She is the reason that this poem began. And it's called Luna, Her Story, as opposed to history. It is time for the next. Pages must be turned, books must be burned. We should erase the past and make time start now. For his story glory caused frown upon my brow. It was all too much for me. It was all like real TV. I was overwhelmed and swamped like an inbox, an innocent woman stoned by rocks, tumbling, breadfruit dropping out of trees unseen with ease and green gleam. Lower spectrums introduce purples, blues, and greens again. Don't you really remember when Mama said, eat your greens, eat your greens. Reflect on those words and tell me how it seems. She knew more than she spoke. She birthed some mad thinkers, then the ill logic broke. It broke and broke the back out. It stoked and smoked the blackout. And no one was prepared for what beast was unleashed upon the land. Stipulation and manipulation walking hand in hand. The illogical language then became grand, convoluted and compromised through bloody blue and blackened eyes. The black looked into the night like its namesake, made the spacescape of words come awake, lifted the level like a lyrical Lazarus, denied the slick grit that we know that time has on us, spilling through space like sugar. We are the sweetest of stars. We stay redder than Mars, giants like Jupiter, dust and lunar winds blowing throughout all of our travels, bringing fear to the atmosphere. Subway to Venus, y'all move it to the rear. And still, I could not get excited. Landed on different planetary joints, the ones it undiscovered. But you gonna tell me that you uncovered it first. Prepare for the worst, for I am like the enemy in the lyrical arms race. Call me the Black Russian, cause I made it first to space and then got celestial. Frightened for the style is quick, fast, see? Dark speech move like that so you don't know what happened. Traveling at the speed of light, that's why we call it rapping. Her story is the one to listen to. She brought all of us here to do what we do, and I have always loved her. Call her the moon, but really she's the sun. So I call my brother son because he shine like one, as we all should be, inside the Milky Way womb that we all call she. Did it for us all. Her stories were pure light. Her tales weren't tall, but we let her take the fall. It's time to bring her back and put her high beyond sight, and let her know that she's the comfort in the blackness of the night, and let his story cascade like Lucifer, for he just ain't bright. That is Luna, Her Story. The next poem that I'd like to read for you is a relatively new one, and it's called Bled. BL from BLM, ED from red. For my brothers and my sisters of the RED, same way BLM got y'all marching with me. Try to shed a little love, spot a little of light. BLM be on my left and I got red on my right. Balling up both fists, we be on the resist. Sick and tired of being spit on, now we taking a shit. Mumbleizing online, gonna march in the streets. We get met with oppositions, clock us taking the beats. It's the same old story that you tired of hearing. It's the same old glory that we tired of fearing. So we challenge those who live with something, nothing to lose. If you're gonna walk a mile with us, then take off your shoes. Predictably, some people wanna play the blame game. Privatizing privilege, perpetuating poor. Forego a light stroll down memory lane. Let me simply take you all on a starlight tour. 60s scooping, 70s slaughter, 80s aching, 90s nada. Damn thing changed, we passed 2000. Lack of healthcare, last of housing. Sift through semantics, talk etymology. Sometimes subtly suppressing the psychology. Displaced, now found on the reservation. Understand the word means state of limitation. Paying much attention to sensational drama. Speaking not of intergenerational trauma. Looking for injustice, it's right here at home. Down with apartheid, it's based on our own. First things first now, understand treaty. Doesn't mean surrender, doesn't mean needy. All of us are stewards and not just some, with the needs that are greater than the few or the one. Finally, this is a poem about our resiliency, the resiliency of women, the resiliency of culture. And now we are talking about the resiliency of us all because COVID-19 is still here in 2021. I wrote a 5-part poem for a short movie called The Adaptation in the Impoverished City, brought to you by Alexander Writers Circle Center Society, AWCS. And they asked me to be a part of it. They asked me to write some poems and perform them and give them an interview on what's happening in an artist's eyes. This is part 5. It's the last of 5 poems, and it is called Reflecting and Projecting. And I believe this applies to all of us right now because we're 2 years into it, more or less. And it talks about what I have seen and what I hope to see, somewhere in the middle. Here we go. And thank you for listening. Thank you for having me. And over time, and finally, I got my mind right. Everything felt crystal clear when using hindsight. When I do consider all the things I worked at harder, I truly repeat most of them, but simply do them smarter. Mixing comprehension with compassion to the game, perhaps with more intention, wielding words to help refrain. Use empathetic listening first to lead the whole vibration, to close the commutation with emotional elation. Let us all try reaching out to check in with more folks. We've realized we've noticed lies behind their Facebook jokes. No matter how their head should bow, one thing I'd surely say is that it's okay not to feel okay, but not to stay that way. Encouragement for growing and discovery of self, honoring your body and your state of mental health. Lifting one another up is how we rise to unity. Making place and holding space is how we craft community. Since we didn't see this coming and we weren't well prepared, no, we will not take this lightly even if we're double dared. For a sniffle, a sneeze, a cough, a wheeze has brought this planet shaking, quaking, breaking at the lungs. Home care, health care, lack of wealth care on their lowest rungs. I feel it, felt the hardest time the human work begun. We all shall have to live another COVID-filled day. News lady ain't the only one who's going gray. There's the newbie causing traffic and the man who does the weather. But one thing I know for sure is that we're all in this together.
I'm gonna finger snap as loud as I can on behalf of everybody. And Thank you so much for sharing your beautiful art with us, Wakefield. I do want to let everybody know, and it's in our chat right now as well, that Wakefield will also be performing in the Love Notes Cabaret this Sunday at 7. So you can register for that free event in the chat. There is a link, or at artscommons.ca. You can also follow this amazing artist's work online on their Instagram. So you can see, I'll pop that into the chat as well. Oh, it's already in there. Great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Give Wakefield some love in that chat. Use your emojis. Snap your fingers for days, and check out all 5 parts of that incredible pandemic poetry. Wakefield, thank you so, so much. Any parting words for us tonight?
I think the reason artists is because life reflects art. We're here because we're supposed to be. I heard that question put out there. Why are we here? Because the world needs us. And I believe that in every pandemic, whether it be global or personal, art can help light a way. So you artists, thanks for helping light my way this evening too. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Wakefield. Have a beautiful evening. And we can't wait to see you back on Sunday for Love Notes Cabaret.
Thank you.
Excellent. Wow, that was so inspiring. Fantastic. We're gonna keep moving. We have a lot of artists to see left. And next, I'd love to invite Gavin, John, and Nicole Wolfe. And we are going to share some really cool drone footage. So let us get set up, and we'll take you through a virtual drone tour of their outdoor installation on 8th Avenue, the Fall of Chop. So I see Nicole. Hi, Nicole. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. Welcome, welcome.
Hello, everybody.
And I see
Hello.
Gavin in a meadowy field with blue skies.
My window XP meadow. Yeah, I'm outside right now, so I figured.
Oh, you are? I hope
appropriate,
it's not snowing on you. Welcome from the outside. How are you both doing?
Really good. Really good. Thank you. Yeah.
Good. I'm not outside. I'm staying warm, like most sensible people today.
Excellent. So we're just about ready to share your drone video. This is footage that Gavin had taken. What was this in mid-November when we first installed?
Yeah, I think that was install day or second install day.
Excellent.
One of the install days. Yeah.
Perfect. So you definitely want to be in your not in your gallery view, in your speaker view to see this exciting footage. So we'll just let this play, and feel free to speak on that. I know for you, Gavin, this was exciting because you had just recently gotten a drone and you were playing around.
Yeah, and actually the funny story, I guess it's funny now looking back on it, I actually crashed it after this this shot. Yeah, it didn't last too long, but yeah, no, it just goes over our exhibit on Stephen Avenue. So I don't know if Nicole, you want to say anything about our piece?
Absolutely.
This?
Yeah. Well, welcome to the Fall of Chop. This is a glimpse into Gavin and my adventure in Seattle. We entered Seattle and just kind of interviewed persons there. We wanted to capture as many sides as we could find. So you can see here we're panning by portraits that we have made of protesters, police officers, residents, visitors to the zone. And if you're not aware of what CHOP is, in the summer of 2020, last summer, following the death of George Floyd, people protesting police brutality took over a 6-block area of Capitol Hill in Seattle, Washington, to ask for reform and also to have their voices heard. So we went there for 2 weeks and we wanted to capture the perspectives of people on the ground. We noticed that a lot of things were being reported through mainstream media, and we weren't sure if people were getting to hear the actual words from people themselves. So that was our heart. And this outdoor exhibit captures what we found.
And do you guys want to elaborate on exactly what it was that you found? Some of the people that you had met?
Yeah, I guess I
absolutely.
can. Oh, sorry.
Go for it.
Sure. Yeah, sorry if there's background noise. There are a couple people behind me, but yeah, I guess one of the interesting things is that we found that there was such a diverse mix of people there. It wasn't one side or the other. We found that, you know, there was such simplified, as Nicole was saying, simplified perspectives on the protest from media, and that, you know, when we got there, it was far more complex. Everyone had different reasons, complex reasons of why they were there, why they were protesting. And it was really inspiring to really kind of get to know these people as individuals and get to know how, yeah, there was, you know, some media proclaimed like CHOP to be full of Antifa, and we found one guy. And even like the Raz Simone, who we got to know quite well over the 2 weeks, turned out to be a really, really interesting, complex man that the media, I think, did a lot of disservice to how they portrayed him. Yeah, it's yeah, I don't know if you want to speak to that, Nicole.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we noticed a large disparity between what was being reported in the news and then what we were observing with our eyes and talking to people about. Yeah, we basically did this weird thing very quickly. We were observing the situation in Seattle heat up, and I think Gavin and I were hanging out with his partner, and we were talking about this, and we were like, hey, according to the media, protesters have taken over a zone, called it autonomous, elected a warlord. He's arming the protesters with guns. They've run all the cops out of town. What the heck? And like, Gavin has a background in conflict journalism. I have a background in using my fine art practice to capture the stories of persons in Syrian refugee camps and during the coup in Turkey in 2016. So we kind of looked at each other and we were like, hey, this is the closest thing we have to a conflict zone. You want to just see if we can get down there? And we kind of, with our fingers crossed, got to the border. And for whatever reason, they let two goofy kids over the border with our sketchbooks and cameras. And we were, according to the journalism committee, Gavin, the only persons to be admitted into the States on journalism purposes since COVID. So we felt very privileged to be able to observe this situation firsthand. And we spent 2 weeks walking around CHOP, Chaz, and talking to people and asking them what their perspectives were. And our focus wasn't necessarily to record people's political views or their where they stood with you know, what their party line was necessarily, but we wanted to capture them as individuals and hear what brought them to this moment. And yeah, what brought them into uniform, what brought them into CHOP as a protester, what did they think? So this is our 3-day sort of bit by bit storytelling look at what we found. The first kiosk talks about our encounter with the alleged warlord, Raz Simone, and some of his thoughts, whether he supported the protest or not, what kind of led him to be the figure that everyone looked to as the warlord, the leader. The second kiosk shows our discussions with an unfortunate fellow who was caught in the middle of a scuffle with protesters and ended up handcuffed to a garbage can. And then the last kiosk is our interview with a female Black police officer who found herself at the scene retaking CHOP from the protesters. And great stories, too much to get into here, but if you want to read it for yourself, we have the blog version up on the Arts Commons webpage. So if you type in our names, Fall of CHOP, Arts Commons, it'll come up and you can read it for yourself at your leisure.
And also, to all add that if it's still up, we have also portraits with quotes from a lot of different perspectives as well. So if you do have a chance to go down, it's a bit chilly today, but if the sun comes out and gets warmer, I really highly recommend to check it out. There's a lot more little kind of quotes and stories to show the different viewpoints from there. So
that's right.
Yeah, go check it out.
Yeah, we had this experimental team up. Gavin deals in photography and writing, and I deal in writing and portraits. So we found this marriage of the arts in how our work could play with visuals overlapping on each other. So Gavin has taken a lot of photographs of the actual protest zone and of protesters. I have drawn the map of Chaz as you could see it at that time. And then we did witness some things that we were just not allowed to take photographs of, either to protect the privacy of protesters or, it was police business. We were not allowed to take photographs. So then we relied on our memory, and we revisited the scenes afterward. Gavin took a photograph and I drew persons and events on top of the photographs. So that is an experimental artsy take on visual journalism.
What a fantastic collaboration between the two of you. It's just such an exciting time to be an artist. We really do live in interesting times, and I think you brought back home just unbelievable documentation and just a really empowering piece to share with the city. What were both of you trying to inspire? What kind of messages were you hoping that people would take away by visiting the installation?
I guess for me, it's something I know that Nicole and I kind of agree upon, is that understanding that big social movements and national movements, they're more complex than we'd like to think they are. Sometimes like to admit that it's not as black and white as we'd like to think, or as we're told, and people are complex individuals. And I think that when we recognize people within large social movements as individuals, I think we get a better perspective on the bigger picture. So going in there, getting to know these people really intimately, and then kind of showing that through Nicole's art and my photographs. I think that's a really important thing to take away, not just for the Black Lives Matter movement, but for any really big social movements or any big questions that we're facing today as a society.
That was so well said. And to answer the second part of that question, why do we bring it back to Calgary? I remember when we installed it at the time, people were saying things like, this is a United States issue. Why are you bringing this to Calgary, Canada? We don't have this problem here. And I remember we kind of looked at each other and we were like, just give it a few months, something will probably happen. And Gavin alluded to it. Within a few hours of installing the piece, we noticed that all the stories and photographs were torn down. So we reinstalled it, and they were taken down again. And so we reinstalled it again, and I'm afraid to update you, they are down currently. But this is kind of, in my opinion, an interesting dialogue with the public, and just underscores why our work is so important. I don't know about you, Gavin, but my feedback has been varied. People have accused me of violence because I have highlighted the voices of protesters, and they have disagreed with me because I've highlighted the voices of police officers. They feel, depending on at which end of the political spectrum they're coming from, they feel like the other side should not be heard. And so I think we realized that we were doing something pretty radical in just presenting the voices and allowing the public to make up their own minds rather than telling them what to think.
I didn't have the or extreme as a response in my group, but I definitely had questions on kind of why I went and why I thought it was important to go and stuff. So it's I'd say yours is a far better example of kind of the reaction to the piece. Yeah, it's true. It's a very, if we're showing as many perspectives as possible, it's bound to invoke, partisan and sides and picking a side. So it's nice to be able to do a piece that, we spoke with protesters and police and, Antifa, and there was a brief moment. So there's patriot groups that showed up there, and, we had experience with all of them. So something that I'm really proud to say that we approach it as a, I don't want to say unbiased, but in a perspective that, we listen to as many people as possible. And I think that's really important for social dialogue today. So.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I put in the chat a link to the blog for the exhibition where you can see some of the work, some of the written work as well. And absolutely congrats on going and presenting all the voices, as Lorraine has just typed in the chat. Gavin, before you go, do you want to let us know, what's your favorite thing about being an artist? And I know you might not agree with that term, but I think you're a great artist.
Thanks. I guess I'm slowly coming around to the term, and thanks to you, I guess, or unfortunately because of you. I think it's I guess call yourself an artist. It's for me, it's how you tell stories, and I'm a visual storyteller. And then how I choose to tell a story can take many forms, and it's not so clinical as journalism can be sometimes, but how I choose to represent certain people and individuals and all that stuff. So it's the more and more I'm looking at my craft, the more it's kind of accepting that there is a form of artistic expression, and especially a collaboration with a visual artist, like a traditional artist, definitely helps me kind of learn to flex those muscles a little bit. So thanks to you as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And at the end of our presentations, you can learn a lot more about the Follow Shop in the breakout room. And for now, we're gonna take you into the Lightbox studio with Nicole Wolfe. And let me just share my screen. And there we go, Nicole. Hi.
Hi there.
So we're gonna get into your Lightbox studio installation, The Art of Protest. So here we go. Let me get navigation all there. All right, so we're back. We're outside the Lightbox. Do you want to give us a bit of an overview?
Sure. Okay, so this was my reaction to the project that I did with Gavin, which we talked about briefly here. So this is sort of a conceptual take on it. Obviously, this space would have been a place that I could have worked on this project and other projects and dialogued with the public. So I wanted to be able to make something that people could come in and explore the stories and some of the artifacts that we gathered from the protest zone. So here you can see Sonia's showing off in the corner. There's this dejected little pile of bricks. It's kind of a conceptual idea to take this bricks, which were often used in the protests, and kind of package them up. This is following upon the story of someone saying that the police planted bricks for people. So that is up for debate, but I thought it would make an interesting visual. And then up here on the wall, there's some of these live portraits that I would have done with protesters. And there's that large pink one in the corner is a police officer. I don't know if we can zoom in on that anymore. And then
that's as far as you go.
That's as far as we go. Okay. So there's little quotes with people. These were sketchbook stories. Some of that pink spray paint of.
Hello.
Oh, hey, great, awesome. Some of the protesters let me borrow their spray paint and spray in my sketchbook. So I was able to use that media to capture this portrait. You can see these little index cards capturing some of the quotes. Often this is how it would go. We'd sit down with people and I'd start to draw their picture and we'd ask them questions. And it's a real sneaky way to trap people into talking to you for a while because they want to have their picture drawn. So that was handy. Over here is the portrait we did of Raz. We weren't actually sure if he wanted to spend a lot of time with us at the beginning. So this was kind of a giant calling card. I wrote my Instagram handle under this portrait in the bottom left of it under his foot, just hoping that he'd reach out and we could ask him more questions. And fortunately he did. So that was fantastic. Some of Gavin's photographs of Raz Simone's rings and just of him sitting with us as I'm drawing his picture. So that's kind of fun. You can see the interplay of art and photography. Okay, this part is a little tongue in cheek. I spray painted this bat in the corner. You can't really see it, but that little list of, yeah, right there, that list on the wall, that's the protesters' demands, what they wanted to see by way of police reform. And I thought it was worth posting, you know. They handed me one and I kept it, and here it is. So
wow. Do you recall any of the content?
You know, I wish I had it right in front of me.
too.
There were calls for better accountability, for body cam video to be shown, for defunding and reallocating of funds for some of them. You can look up that in our writings elsewhere. And then, okay, over here, where are we going? Outside.
Let me try and get back to your brick, your concrete photos.
Oh yeah. Okay. So with these blocks of concrete, I have printed off and adhered Gavin's photographs of the protests that we saw happening around CHOP, and I glued them onto the concrete bricks because it was kind of this idea of like, what is the surface of this concrete scene? And no, I did not pack out this concrete from Seattle. I picked this up in Calgary. That would have been ridiculous. But no, this is kind of like to give tangibility, I think, to a lot of the materials that we were seeing in the zone, you know, spray paint, bats, concrete, bricks, right? Broken glass. There's police tape hanging in the corner. Yeah, so I should really take good photographs of these and put them up somewhere so people can crawl through them in more detail.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
They're really great. Let me get back in there. I can just fly through the glass in these. Pretty awesome. Tell us a little bit about these ingredients.
Okay, this is hard to see, but this is a cocktail that I made, kind of thinking that I could make this as a tongue-in-cheek cocktail to welcome you all to this reception, which unfortunately never happened in person. I don't know if we can focus on it, but the ingredients here are Rainier beer, which is made in Seattle. There is a bottle of spray paint. There's some Starbucks bitters, which I made myself, some vodka, and there's a little box of matches with a small printed out American flag. And this was going to border a bit on performance art, but I was going to have this this mix displayed on a brick, and then I would spray it with some spray paint, light it on fire, and then smash it with a bat, and then present it to the public as sort of like a multi-sensory experience of sort of the elements of the protest. I just wanted to subvert expectation by giving this drink. You know, are you going to be able to drink it, or is it undrinkable? So yeah, hard to see, but there was also a burning of a small American flag. So apologies to any Americans out there, but it made sense in context. And then over here in the corner, we have these hanging strips of police tape. I did steal these from CHOP when the police retook it, and you can kind of make out some of it. I was being very sneaky about it, but I don't think too many people cared. And then to the right are some salvaged posters that the protesters would have put up. And the title of one is Defend Equality, Stand With Us, with a very constructivist kind of aesthetic there. And then the top one says, I'm going to kick your ass, with a police officer pointing at you.
And these are sort of things that you would have found discarded as part of like the debris of the protests, right?
That's right. After the protest. Yeah. When when the police retook it. I felt that this was history that might not be seen afterward. There was a lot of there were a lot of cleanup crews in there, cleaning off the spray paint, clearing off the posters. There's a lot of art, a lot of installed large art. And I thought to myself, I need to take some of this before it goes in the garbage. So I grabbed these 2 posters and here they are.
I'm so glad. And then finally is this artwork. Can you tell us a little bit about the spray painted autonomous zone?
Yeah, this is just 3 panels of glass, and I spray painted autonomous zone on it. This would be the first thing that would kind of encounter your view as you came in the studio. This was an introduction to the work. Gavin and I did notice a lot of broken windows around the protest zone. Residents did have to pay a price for the protest, and it seemed appropriate that I include some precariously placed glass in this exhibit. So yeah, these pieces were meant to be a conversation starter with the public as they encountered the Lightbox studio.
Mm-hmm.
I intended to be able to share a bit about our project and let them know what we'd seen and direct them to reading more of the protesters, police officers, residents, and guests' accounts themselves.
Excellent. Thank you for taking us on a walking tour of the Lightbox studio and some of the objects that you created and gathered as a result. So Nicole, my question for you is, what's your favorite thing about being an artist?
Okay, off the cuff. I didn't know that question was coming. It's a big question. I love being an artist. I would say I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to explore and work out things that matter to me as part of my job. So, you know, if I want to get to the bottom of a matter or I want to research it, if I want to process it, either through painting or drawing or some other medium, I can do that. I can take things that I'm ruminating on and externalize them, and then I can have discussions with other people about things that matter to me. So that's a pretty sweet job. I like it a lot.
Best job in the world, right?
It's pretty great. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you. Thanks for joining us, Nicole. And if you want to learn more about this or the fall chop, you can join Nicole and Gavin in the breakout room at the end of the event. I'm going to move forward and invite Katy Perry into the stage, and I'm going to be sharing with you our window galleries. Hi, Katy.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. Looking forward to talking more about this work. Do you want to let us know a little bit about your installation, Odd and Unusual, in the window galleries?
Sure. So Odd and Unusual is a show of surreal combos of usually food and not food of some description. It's a really vague explanation, but it's about as easy as it gets in a short elevator pitch. The easiest way probably for me to kind of explain the work is just to explain my process, which kind of just gives a little bit of a glimpse into like why I would make something like this. So usually I start by just shopping at either a thrift store or a dollar store. I find both of those stores have like a really good just like subset of everyday objects you might encounter. So I kind of just spend a ton of time wandering through, looking at different objects until I have some kind of a spark of connection. And sometimes it's like a similarity, like you can see right now, there's the ice cream with the baseball in a waffle cone. Like, you know, obviously that kind of clicked as like two objects that kind of look similar at first glance, but really don't belong together. Or it's like contrast. So just right next to it, there's the lollipops with the screws in them. Obviously two really contrasting elements there that are pretty normal in day-to-day life, but really should not be put together. So I just go through and I find some things that kind of work together. And then to me, the most interesting part, which is kind of a bummer because it doesn't really get shown off, is I really actually make all of these so that I can photograph them. So I kind of create these like macabre sculptures in my house made of food and weird elements. And so that I can light them in my studio. So that's kind of the most fun part almost, like, and a lot of the things are made with stuff around my house as well. There's a lot of toys, like, you know, that one has Hot Wheels, has like little toy cars in it. And you get to use a lot of food styling techniques as well to make them. So with Hot Wheels in particular, this like shish kebab in the middle, to make it look grilled, but obviously I can't grill it because it has plastic cars on it. I had to like paint the grill marks onto the vegetables with like, I just used a vanilla essence, which smelled horrible, but like it made it look like grilled. So that's probably the most fun part with these, is just actually making the objects, and then the baby bottle filled with candy was really fun too, and just kind of using chopsticks and placing everything in there just so that it would all catch the light nicely. Yeah, and then sending out my camera and photographing it. A lot of these, not so much these ones, but the baby bottle for sure. There's a lot of transparent elements in paintings that I do, which are really tough to find reference photos for. When I first started painting, I would just like find photos online to reference. But there's not a lot of photos of like baby bottles with candy in them on black backgrounds. Like you just can't find references like that. So I just started building most of these. And then the last step, which kind of is like the main show step, I guess, but for me, it's kind of the least creative, is just painting it. So just using my photo references. I usually don't paint true to photo. I do make some adjustments just to make it pop a little bit more. But yeah, just kind of creating a pretty realistic rendering of whatever stupid combo I made onto a canvas.
I think these combinations are absolutely fantastic. And I love that you create sculptures. So you physically would have created the shish kebab set in real life as a reference material, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they all get built. Like some aren't really possible to build, so I do as much as I can, like as close. But yeah, they kind of existed in a physical space for some time, and then I usually eat them.
Lovely. What a fun process that you have. Thank you for sharing a little bit about your work. I know that people also get to learn a lot more in your breakout room. But for now, do you also want to let us know what your favorite part about being an artist is?
Oh yeah, sure. I think it's just that freedom to be weird for me. I feel like I don't really necessarily make a lot of profound statements with my work, or at least it's not my intention. I think a lot of people out there are already creating really, really important work. But it does give me the freedom to be a little bit more silly and goofy and kind of like really find joy in all those small things and celebrate things in a way that I think people who aren't creating artwork maybe don't get the opportunity to take the time to do.
Oh, that is so wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for joining us and for sharing your work. Next up, I'm going to invite Mel VX to the stage. Welcome, Mel V. All right, let me get your gallery in position. How you doing? Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm just admiring all the art. I haven't got to see it all in one kind of go, so it's really something else.
Absolutely. Did you want to introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about the work that you have installed?
Sure. I mean, when it comes to visual art, I try to use a few words. I like the work to speak for itself. But I'm a multidisciplinary artist. I began as a spoken word poet and then branched out into photography and then burlesque performance. And I feel like many things on the go at any given time, but The inspiration for this work came from a really deep place. So, yeah.
And you have two side-by-side installations with your photographs, and you've obviously deliberately chosen to select either black and white or color. Can you tell us a little bit about your process in making those decisions?
I was ruthless. If it didn't fit, it didn't fit. And I had to make curatorial choices. But this to me is those contrasting faces of mental illness and mental health struggles and that recovery journey.
Beautiful. And then my question for you, of course, as well, is what is one of your favorite parts about being a multidisciplinary artist?
I get to say the things that are difficult to say. And I don't have to toe a party line, and I don't have to represent an institution or company or whatever. As an independent artist, I get to represent myself and I get to say what I want. And that to me is so important, that freedom of expression. And I kind of look back on these pictures every now and then. I think, wow, there's just something that I love so much about them, and about portraits in particular. I'm definitely a sucker for portraiture. There's a lot of like amazing work that can be done with portraits, and I really look for ways to tell stories in any medium that I can. And yeah, I'm sad people didn't get to see it in person. It doesn't, like, you can only do it justice online as much as possible, and they're really beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I'm grateful that I got to do it, and that we're getting to have this opportunity to see and share work together. That I think is, I'm so grateful for.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And is there anything else you want to share about your work here?
No.
Great. Well, it's a beautiful portraiture, and thank you so much for sharing your work with us. We do have a couple other artists who are part of the window galleries that I'll briefly speak on. So this is the wonderful work of Maria Manar, and it's called Fragments of a Layered Landscape. And this is work that results from Maria's delicate configurations. She uses contrasting materials, intricate layers, and really decadent colors. And she's doing this by bringing the medium of photography into a three-dimensional space. So this work is just wonderful and just super beautiful and interesting to kind of decode. And the final artist in the window galleries, it was interesting because both of these artists came up with the same title for their work. So this is also titled Fragments of a Layered Landscape. And these are wonderful hand-assembled collages by Paige Kirkpuit. And this work, it's a laborious work of hand-cut images that have been meticulously placed and arranged and then permanently glued. So let me just try and get in there so you can at least see the series from Paige. Again, really wonderful and vibrant, surreal and humorous work. And I'll take us to this last gallery. Okay, great. So that wraps it up for the window galleries. I now want to turn our attention to the ledge gallery, and I want to welcome to the stage Kyle Simmers.
Hello, hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing all right.
Great, great. Well, welcome back to the ledge.
Back to the ledge.
Back to the ledge. So do you want to just give us a little bit of an overview and introduction to yourself and to your project, Pass Me By Electric Vice? And I'll do my best to show off all the components with justice.
Well, thank you. Yeah, so I'm a non-binary graphic novelist and muralist working in the city of Calgary. I spend a lot of time in my summers up on ladders, swinging paint around at scale, and then fall through winter, I've been, well, longer than that now, I've been working on my second graphic novel in a series titled Pass Me By. Pass Me By is a queer rural Canadian tragedy following a man with a dementia diagnosis. And it's a split narrative following his struggle in contemporary life and the present, dealing with family and this disease and relationships. And then jumping back to the 1970s, where Ed went on tour with a glam rock band. And we introduced queer elements that sort of subvert your expectations of who this small town recluse might be. This project at Arts Commons was intended to sort of showcase the process behind producing this book, because it's a tremendous amount of labor and layered information that goes into this. I also wanted to create like an arrangement of works that inspire what I do. I had a lot of local authors, graphic novels, visual reference guides, design books, and all sorts of things laid out. I kind of just wanted to like create a playground of possibility for anyone who entered the ledge to sort of see where their eye went and what they got interested in and try and like direct conversations based on what I had arranged around. Up on the wall to the left when you first enter into the gallery is sort of an exploded view of the book where I had my early sketches that I actually produced a good chunk of in the first 2 weeks before the pandemic shut down my residency here, and then switched to working from home. So this is sort of like the first pass over my script where I'm just like roughly blocking out what's going to happen in the story. I'm getting an idea on the pacing, the way that things are going to lay out across pages, and how long this thing is going to be. So I get an idea of how much time I'm going to have to invest into it. Moving from there, there's some more refined pages that sort of go through the processes of ink and colors as a way of like layering on more information to produce this final project. I actually just got in printer proofs last week, so I have been able to hold my book thanks to this residency extending from the original slated 3 months into almost 14 months. Rather than having about 50 pages was my initial goal, I ended up illustrating almost all 155 of them. There's just a small section at the back that still needs to be colored that I'm hustling away on here these days. But it's been pretty exciting to actually see these drawings progress from the little pink pencil sketches that I had early on in the process through to these finished elements that will go into print here in early May.
That's so exciting to see the final product in your hand.
Yeah, it's a really big difference. It also helps to, the printer proofs are a great idea if anyone ever is intending on doing something sort of serialized, like just to see the way that your colors translate from digital into print. There can be a huge difference with some things. These like peachy tones sort of emerge. It's a lot of times it's not necessarily bad things, but it's just things that I like to have control over. So I like to do those tests before things are off to print run.
And I do want to congratulate you. I know you just had a successful Kickstarter campaign to produce the book, and there's still a couple weeks to support it. So do you want to tell us what it's like to incorporate crowdfunding into this process?
Yeah, so crowdfunding has been pretty vital to this series as it's developed. Ryan and I started this project back in like 2018, and naive us, we just sort of flew at it, and like we just felt that there was something really significant in what we were dealing with and wanted to make it happen, and we turned to Kickstarter to help do that. So we funded our first book as a risograph print run, which is this fun process that's more like silk screening than it is like digital printing. And that small print run caught the attention of a indie publisher, Renegade Arts Entertainment, who picked us up and released us Canada-wide. So we returned to Kickstarter with book 2 because there's a really supportive community on that platform of people who are just like keeping an eye out for new creators and projects that they want to support. A lot of our, I think like 40% of our funding this time around has come from people who have no connection to Ryan or I specifically. They've just stumbled upon us through the platform of Kickstarter, through their Explore page, through their recommendations, etc. It's a lot of work to do a crowdfunding campaign. It's been probably something like 100 hours of just like writing and producing videos and making clips. And we've been recording studio visits with other artists to post and creating sort of a lot of content to just kind of keep momentum rolling around the series while the Kickstarter campaign's running. It's relieving though. I'm very happy since the Kickstarter hit its goal because this is a really labor-intensive process. This book, I think I'm up to like 12 to 1,300 hours on it, and I've still got quite a ways to go. And that's a lot of time that I end up having to like turn down paid opportunities for, or so just creating sustenance through that can be a difficult process. So that's where turning to Kickstarter can be a way to help sort of lighten that load. It's actually, it's also great because of the way that Kickstarter is set up and the relationship we have with our publisher. It's a way for people to more directly support the artists. It's just a more direct pipeline to like Ryan and I, so like help us keep producing this series. We have the intention of making 5 of these books, so I will be at it for a while.
Fantastic. Congratulations again. In the chat, you will find the interview with Kyle Simmers for the Arts Commons blog, and you can read more about the campaign and the work and support it as well. Kyle, I do want to ask you, of course, what is your favorite part about being an artist?
Yeah, I didn't see this question coming. I think that my favorite part of being an artist is the response that the work can generate. I think that the most important thing for me is when people read my book and have connections to it and see themselves in it, or come across murals that I've done around the city and have sort of a visceral reaction. I think that if I was just doing this work into a vacuum, I don't know how much longer I would make it for. I think it really is it's a communication tool for me, and it's a way of connecting with people. It's a way of sort of extending bridges in ways that verbal communication or other forms of communication can't quite do it. I think that there's sort of a magical place that things like graphic novels and murals sort of occupy. And yeah, so it's about connecting with people for me.
Yeah, that's very, very inspiring. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing the work that you've done in the Wedge. While I've got my screen open, I want to remind everyone that you too can check out all of the virtual scans up online at artscommons.com. You want to go to Learn and Engage, Visual and Media Arts, and then you can click the 360 virtual view and check out all of the scans and all the artists once again after this event, of course. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and get back to everybody. Hello again. So of course, that brings us to the end of our virtual gallery tours. We will now open it up to our optional breakout rooms. This is going to be a great way to hear more about the artists. We only got to spend a few minutes with everybody. So this is your opportunity to ask your questions directly and learn more about their process. Some of the artists have prepared things for you to encounter in the rooms. So we're going to have about 10 minutes to spend time within the 3 breakout rooms. And now I would love to invite Selena back to give us a little bit of an overview on the breakout rooms.
Hi, everyone. You can't see me because I have my camera covered. Thank you, Sonia. I just wanted to say I'm going to open the rooms, and I've made it so people can choose the room, but I have pre-assigned you if you're an artist who will be presenting in one of the rooms. I have pre-assigned you to your room, so make sure that you go to that. And then for everyone else, you can always come back to the main session by clicking on a button on your screen. It might look differently if you're on a phone, on a laptop, or an iPad or something like that, but it's just called Breakout Rooms, and you can always choose a room, or you can say leave and say go back to main session, and I'll be here and I can put you in a room that you want, or you can ask me any questions. There's also a button that says ask for help, and that will send me a message and I can quickly try to help you in anything you need. So make sure that when you say leave room, you don't say leave meeting, because there's two options there. And if you say leave meeting, you will leave the meeting. So we don't want that. So make sure that you do that, and I'll open the rooms right now, and ask me any questions if you need it.
Excellent. So Selena's preparing to open the rooms. There are 3 rooms. The first room has the artists of the Many Paths in the Plus 15 galleries. The second room has Nicole Wolfe with the Fall of Chop, and I think Gavin John may also join. And then our third room has studio visits with Kyle Simmers and Katy Perry, and any of the other artists who are here tonight are welcome to join and talk about their work if they would love to be a part of a breakout room. So we'll see you in there. I'm going to hop around a little bit, and I mostly just really want to thank you all for joining us to this point, and a big thank you to all the artists and to Jen and Selena. So thank you. Let's go with Breakout.